Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live their dream healthy lifestyle. Today's episode is going to be all about bloating because I know I've struggled with bloating in the past. I know a lot of clients have struggled with bloating, and I'm sure as women, we have had bloating at some part of our lives, whether it is cycle related or food related or gut health related. And bloating can be very frustrating and almost feel like debilitating at times. I know as a girl, like putting on clothes and feeling like I didn't want to wear something because I felt too bloated in the past. And now being able to eradicate a lot of that bloating and not just feel bloated for no reason has been very freeing. And so we're going to be talking about bloating, even if you feel like you're eating healthy and still getting bloated. This episode is for you. And there's some things in here that I wish I would have known when I was constantly getting bloated all the time. And it really just felt like this endless, painful cycle that I am so happy I was able to figure out a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to be literally spilling all of the tea here today. So that is going to be the bulk of the episode. Before we go into that, I'm going to do a little weekly recap, talk about my high of the week, my low of the week, and I have a couple of favorites this week too, which is really exciting, and a couple of funny stories that I wanted to share on the podcast because who else am I going to share them with? Okay, let's talk about the high of my week, which is the rose of my week. And I know we have been on this journey here together. I've been doing kind of updates on my podcast and stuff about post birth control and everything that has entailed. And let me tell you, like the past, I would say like 6 to 8 weeks has been a little bit rough when it comes to this journey because I got off of the pill. Just for a little bit of context, I got off at the end of December and I have not had a period yet, which is obviously not great, but I also am very educated in this arena. So I knew that it is normal for your body sometimes to take a little bit of time when it comes to getting your cycle back. Before I was even on the pill 7 years ago, like I had an irregular cycle. I was never someone with a super irregular cycle. Like that's a reason why I got on the pill in the first place. And so I wasn't expecting it to just like completely come back really easily. I thought it would maybe be a little bit harder for me to get back. But anyway, so I got off the pill at the end of December and I've been doing so much to support my body, like taking different supplements and really trying to sleep more and manage my stress and try to drink less and eat healthy and eat anti-inflammatory and doing all this stuff. And so I was really excited when finally I got onto my Natural Cycles app. I've been using Natural Cycles to track my temperatures. I have an Aura ring that is really cool as well because it helps me to track my temperatures. And throughout this entire journey, I have been literally like screenshotting it almost daily. I'm like kind of obsessed with it. Like, have it ovulated yet? Have it? Because I just want to know when I am getting my period because that is obviously something that is really important. Like one of your major signs in your body that things are going well is getting a regular cycle and one that is painless and not crazy and having things that are happening that are out of the normal. Like that is how your body tells you if something is wrong as a woman. And so I was just waiting. And finally this week I ovulated according to my Aura ring, according to Natural Cycles. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the data really is showing that I have, and it's really crazy to go through this as someone that hasn't gone through this now in like 7 years. That night and that day that I was ovulating, like I literally felt different. Like it was kind of crazy. I know people talk about this and are like, well, I can feel how, different parts of my cycle I am. And so when I saw that pop up on my Aura ring, my Natural Cycles, I was so excited. So probably I'm going to get my period here in the next week or so, which I will talk about. I want to do honestly like a whole episode on preparing your body for post-birth control and stuff, but I want to wait until I am consistently getting a cycle because I don't want to educate on anything that I haven't personally lived through. But I do have a lot of things that I was doing to get my period back, and I'm just really excited that data is there that I ovulated because that is basically what happens obviously before you get a period. Like that's kind of what I was waiting for, because your body basically like you need to either ovulate or you can like not ovulate and still get your period. But basically what happens is that once you do ovulate, basically like 10 to 14 days later is when you do get your cycle. So you have to have a period of ovulation in order to actually have your cycle come. So that is exciting for me. And I really hope that I do not have another 90-day cycle because let me tell you, I was going through just like kind of a little bit mentally when it came especially to body image, that that cycle of time and that period of time was so long. I just felt kind of like puffy and bloated and just like not myself. And literally since ovulating, I feel so much better, so much less puffy. My digestion is normal. And it's really, really crazy how your body does respond to that. And especially when you are coming off of birth control or an IUD or anything like that, like you have to give your body some grace because it's literally trying to recalibrate and make these hormones. And so that's something I really tried to be nice to myself about and not being like mean about body image to myself or be like, why do I look like this, whatever, because there's so much my body is trying to do and we really have to support it. And the last thing you want to do is be being mean to it or, saying negative words. And so I've been really trying to be positive throughout this whole journey and knowing that this is just a season of being uncomfortable that will be good for long-term, just overall health for myself. And I am excited I made this decision. I'm happy I made this decision, but it definitely has been like had its ups and downs. And I'm excited to compile like my entire story together at some point on my podcast and go over all of it. But for now, y'all get a little bit of weekly updates, but potentially on next check-in or next podcast, not check-in. I've been doing a lot of check-ins today, but next podcast, I'll talk about my first cycle and how that went. But I will say a little bit nervous for it just because I have heard it can be like kind of intense because I haven't had like a normal cycle off of birth control in 7 years. So I don't know what to expect, but I'm going to do everything I can in order to prep my body for it and make sure I'm managing my stress and eating healthy and doing all the things that I am normally doing and giving myself the support that it needs to be able to have a successful and hopefully painless period. I'm just putting it out there, but enough period talk. Hopefully no men are listening to this, but that was my rose of the week, guys. I was so excited when it popped up that I ovulated. I was like, yes. And so what happens with ovulation too is that your body temperature goes up. So that's how it tracks it. And so that's why we're wearing an Oura ring. It tracks your body temperature and you literally like feel hotter at night. Anyways, you guys are probably like, Abby, like I've been at this non-birth control, post-birth control life for a while and it's not that crazy, but I think it's crazy because I am so happy. Like I made that decision, but it definitely has been hard and like quite the journey. So we will continue to update there. Thorn, oh my gosh, the low of my week was actually this morning. So if I didn't record this podcast episode a day late, I'm recording a day late today because I literally had no time to yesterday. I wouldn't have had the story. So this morning I wake up, I'm having my bone broth, I'm letting Archie outside, I'm like having a good morning, relaxing again. We're trying to get the nervous system right over here. I walk into my office, which is where I'm sitting in right now, and against the wall is something. I'll go and look. And it's a scorpion. It's a big one. Like it was probably the size of my thumb. Like it was a big scorpion, full on, tail, arms, everything, guys. I literally wanted to gag when I saw this. And immediately, of course, I turned to chat. Well, okay. I text my mom and my dad because what else am I going to do? And I also turn to chat because that's my third contact, emergency contact. So I take a photo of it and I send it to chat and I say, what do you do? And it said to spray it with dish soapy water. And then you can either like kill it, or if you're brave, you can put like a cup over it and do a piece of paper and try to get outside. And I knew this wasn't an option for me because the first time I tried to do that with the scorpion, it was so fast and it freaked me out so bad. Like they can move really quickly. And so I did not want to get stung and I didn't want it to be anywhere near my body. Okay. So I decide soap and water and then I'm going to kill it. Guys, oh my gosh, I have the shivers right now, even thinking about it. And of course I recorded this. So if anyone wants the footage, just let me know. I was literally screaming in it. It was hilarious. But I go to kill it and I'm spraying it with the soap and it's like arms are going out, like trying to sting something. And I hit it with a golf club. I'm like literally throwing up thinking about this. And it literally like splattered everywhere. It was so bad. And in the video, I'm like literally screaming like high pitch. Guys, it was so disturbing. Yeah, I literally couldn't eat breakfast after that. My nervous system was just heightened. Yeah, so that was like not a fun morning for me this morning, but it was funny because I texted my mom and she said, kill it, which I was like, I am not stepping on this. Like the thought of stepping on a scorpion too, just like like, so I smacked it with a golf club. Like, that was my only option because I was like, I need to be the farthest away possible to this bug. And I know that, don't come for me, PETA, if anyone is, wants to take care of scorpions, like, not me. I could not even have risked like trying to keep it alive and getting it outside. Like, that was not an option. So anyways, that was a really scary moment for me and like for sure my low of the week. And yeah, that I was before I had that story happen to me this morning, I wrote down another low because I think I've talked about Costco on here before and just how the Costco down here is literally insane. And I love old people. Like, don't get me wrong, I love old people, but they should not be at Costco. Like, it's so slow and I like feel so bad. Like, no one knows what they're doing and they're just like walking really slow and whatever. So I was like trying to turn, God forbid, trying to turn into a different aisle in Costco. And this old woman looks at me with the biggest scowl, like death stare. I have not been stared at like that in, I don't even remember how long. I literally look at her. It was so startling. I start to laugh and the man behind her also saw this happening and he looks at me and he's like laughing with me because it was so uncalled for. Like, I don't know what I did to deserve that death stare, but that was my low of the week before I saw the scorpions. That woman did not get as much of a stray as she needed to this podcast episode because of the scorpion. But wow, it has been quite the week. And then as far as favorite products go, now I'm just gotta like calm down after talking about that. My favorite product has been tuna fish. I know that sounds really weird and some people are like, ew, don't even mention the word tuna to me, but I love tuna and I'll go through phases where I eat tuna all the time. I remember in high school, my mom used to make tuna for us and leave it in the fridge and we'd come home for lunch and we'd have the tuna. And so I think it's just like kind of nostalgic as well for me. But I have been loving doing tuna, doing some avocado mayo with that, maybe some mustard, some pickles, some red onions, some jalapenos, like just creating some concoctions. I have been liking doing it on a rice cake as well, just because it's like kind of crunchy, or like a cracker of some sort. I did siete trips just a second ago, but I have been literally obsessed with tuna. And by the way, protein hack, 30 grams of protein in one can, super easy, a very lean protein source. Of course, you don't want to be like having tuna every single day because I know there is a risk of mercury poisoning, which of course, like, you don't want that, but I have been loving it and it has been such a staple for me. Also, too, just like another favorite, I'm just really chatty this episode today. Another favorite is the show Paradise. You guys, the season finale was last night and it was insane. If you have not watched the show Paradise, it is on Hulu. It is so good. I highly recommend. It's like an end of the world dystopian kind of show. I guess is dystopian and end of the world the same thing? Who knows? But I'm just a girl. But it's kind of like an end of the world situation. It's really, really good though. And the season finale was last night and I literally like couldn't stop thinking about it. Sash, like, can't stop thinking about it. But anyways, those are all of kind of like my weekly recap, just kind of state of my health and everything. This is the last week of my kill protocol for my H. pylori, which I'm wondering too if that is connected to me ovulating because I don't have as much stress in my gut. So my body was like, we're good, we're ready to go, we're ready to ovulate. Who knows? I think everything's connected. So that's also something that probably helped with ovulation as well. But let's get into the episode and kind of like why maybe you're feeling bloated, even if you are eating healthy. And I know it's super frustrating to be like doing the workouts, having the whole foods, eating protein, trying to get your water in, and then you're still feeling worse or maybe just like the same as you were before and still feeling bloated. And this really isn't like a food problem. This is something else that's probably going on. This is more of like a function problem. And there's probably something a little bit deep rooted. So today we'll kind of go over the things that are a little bit more under the surface and are a little bit harder to discover if this is kind of the culprit of your bloating, or the basic things. Because a lot of people, they aren't doing the basics and they are doing some things that are really causing them a lot of digestive upset and a lot of things that do cause bloating. And it's not always going to be the answer to like immediately run to a GI map or immediately run to testing. Like, it could very much so be basic things. And I would say most of the clients I work with, their bloating clears up from just doing a few of these basic things. So we'll run through those. We'll kind of go over why you're getting bloated and how to resolve it and to feel better, because bloating is such a frustrating cycle to be in for sure. So let's talk about bloating and like the problem around bloating. And honestly, at the end of the day, like bloating is a symptom. It is not the like root cause, of course, of what's going on. Bloating is happening because of something else. Because if you think about it, like you could be at a restaurant with your friends and you could be eating the exact same food, and one person gets super bloated and the other person doesn't. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the food that's bloating them. And I think that's a very common misconception of, well, I just get bloated when I have pasta, or I get bloated when I have red meat. And that's not normal. Like it's not normal to have bloating from certain foods. And so, yes, like of course, certain foods could make you more bloated than others, but I would say it's more under the surface than you think it is. And it's not necessarily all up to your food choices. That's what makes it so frustrating. It's like you can't just say, well, I'm just not going to eat gluten, or I'm just not going to eat red meat, or I'm not going to eat cauliflower. Like there are other things and other boxes to check when it comes to making sure we're addressing the root cause of to why we're bloating, rather than just like jumping into an elimination diet or trying to just like clean eat. That's probably not going to be like the most advantageous thing for you. And it's not that your body is broken, it's just not supported maybe properly right now, which is something very, very common. And I mean, I've talked to so many friends, and I mean, you've probably been at dinner with your friends and one of them has been like, oh my gosh, I'm so bloated from that pizza. Meanwhile, you're not. And I totally remember being the person that was like, why am I so bloated all the time? And now my systems are working so good that like I really don't experience bloat like literally ever, where someone could be very sensitive to bloating because of some of these deep rooted issues. So let's talk about the top reasons why you may be struggling with bloat even when you are eating clean whole foods. So number one is that you have poor digestion and your body is not properly breaking food down. So this could be for a few different reasons. Number one, low stomach acid. If you do not have enough stomach acid, your body is literally not going to be able to break down your food properly. And especially when you have a lot of protein or big meals, like your body is not going to be able to break those meals down properly, which can result in a lot of bloating, constipation, heartburn. There's a lot of different downstream effects that can happen from poor digestion, and especially when it pertains to low stomach acid. So this is something that actually I have been working on since doing a GI map, and that is something the GI map does show is like, how is your stomach acid? Are you able to kill off some of the bad bacteria? And if your stomach acid is low from potentially having like H. pylori, or from stress, or like a period of time where your stress levels are super high and maybe you're under eating, like you're not going to have a fighting chance to even be able to break down this food without repairing and having a little bit of support for that stomach acid. So that is a big one that I have seen with myself and a lot of clients, but one that I think is really important to mention. And it's hard to kind of know, like, do I have low stomach acid? There are some at-home tests. If you want to DM me, I can share with you how to do at these like free at-home tests. I'm having a couple clients actually do them as we speak. It's like called the baking soda test. So basically you drink a little bit of water with a tiny bit of baking soda, and we can kind of see like what the state of the union is with your stomach acid. Of course, it's not like absolute, like this is where your stomach acid is at, but it can kind of generally give us a little bit more data on how your stomach acid is and how it's responding. But that could definitely be a reason why you're struggling with bloating, is because you're not digesting your food properly. And also another reason is having poor food hygiene. So this kind of goes along with the poor digestion, is that if you are someone that eats super fast, maybe you are eating while you're watching TV, while you're doing a work call, like if you are doing these things and you're not really putting yourself into rest and digest state, you are probably going to struggle with your digestion quite a bit. And so for clients that struggle with their digestion, especially when it comes to bloating, I say sit down and try to have your food distraction free, really slow down your eating, slow down your chewing, make it a comfortable environment. And I know in the day and age where people aren't taking lunch breaks and they're just working through lunch and they're eating in the car and on the go and while holding their kids, like of course there's going to be an element to you can't have every single thing go perfectly. But I think that more times than not, if you're able to sit down and be present with your food, you probably will struggle a lot less with digestion and bloating, especially. So making sure you're chewing your food, making sure you're sitting down and having a meal. And if your food is like not breaking down properly, it's going to ferment. It's going to cause that gas. And so that's why you may experience some extra bloating from not having the right food hygiene or having the low stomach acid, is because your food is not being properly broken down. And if you are doing the two at once, like that's going to be a perfect storm and a recipe for disaster and a recipe for bloating. The next thing is that you could have a gut imbalance. I know I've done a lot of episodes lately on gut health in GI map, but that is something you can definitely test for in a GI map, whether you have maybe an overgrowth of bad bacteria, you have some dysbiosis, or if you have something like candida or a parasite or H. pylori. Like all of these things can definitely be a root cause of bloating. And that was something that I was always like, okay, like, yeah, of course, I'm maybe not eating 100% clean or whatever. That's probably the reason why I'm bloated. But in reality, I had some of these imbalances and a lot of dysbiosis and some leaky gut and some intestinal permeability with that leaky gut. And so, of course, like you're going to struggle with digestion if you are also struggling with a lot of dysbiosis and overgrowths with these bad guys. And so I definitely recommend, if you have gotten all your basics in order and you're having enough fiber, you're having enough water, your rest and digest state when you're eating, your food hygiene is good, and if you're checking all these boxes and you're still experiencing bloating, I don't think it's a bad idea to take that next step and to look at a GI map and to get a GI map done with someone like me or a trusted individual that can help break that down for you, because testing and not guessing is so important. I mean, there's been people that come to me as well and are like, I know that I have H. pylori, or I know I have whatever. I'm like, okay, let's test. And then it comes back as something completely different. And so to have that test of actually confirming like what you do have, it makes it a lot easier to be able to have an action plan moving forward, rather than just like trying a bunch of things, trying having digestive enzymes, trying all this stuff and it not working. Now, I think crossing the boxes with your basics is pillar number one. And then if that still is not fixing your bloating problem, then focusing on testing and getting to a better spot with that. The next thing I already kind of talked about, but is your stress and nervous system. So if your body is in fight or flight mode, your digestion is not going to be optimal, which will cause the bloating. And your blood flow is not going towards your gut. Like it's going towards all of your other extremities. Like think about if you're being chased by a bear, like the last thing your body wants to do is go to the bathroom. The last thing your body wants to do is have proper digestion. It's going to be stressed, and your gut is not going to want to be or it's not going to want to heal in a stressed out body. And so we really have to focus on stress and nervous system regulation. This is something that is huge. I'm sure you've been in this spot before. Maybe it's just a me thing, but if you've ever been like really worried about something and you notice your digestion is affected, whether maybe you're going on a date and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm literally going to poop my pants right now. Like that's a reason, that's part of like the stress in the nervous system and your body going quicker than normal. Or you can get very like backed up in times of stress too. So it can show up in different things, and bloat is also another thing that can happen. And so putting yourself into a very stressed out state is going to have a direct correlation with your digestion and especially with your bloating. And so I definitely recommend, if you're someone that is not focusing on stress management and maybe they're running themselves into the ground and they're always in fight or flight, like that is something to for sure address, because if we cannot get to that just bottom of the barrel, bottom of the pyramid, stress and nervous system regulation, nothing else is going to follow. Like we can take all the supplements, we can do all of the different things and still not be completely eradicated from bloating, because our body is in such a perpetually stressed out state. Okay, so number 4 is eating too clean. So I know a lot of clients come to me and they're like, well, I'm eating clean, but now I'm like super bloated, or I'm still bloated. And there is definitely a line that you can walk when it comes to eating too clean. So if you're someone that maybe has not eaten clean in the past, and you're someone that eats a lot of processed foods or whatever, and you all of a sudden start eating a ton of fiber, a ton of protein, a lot of stuff that you haven't had in the past, it's going to be a shock to your system and you're probably going to feel bloated. And so that's why a lot of people kind of quit, or they're like, oh, healthy eating doesn't work for me, I'm super bloated eating protein, is because you didn't ease into it. Or kind of talking about the 5 minutes ago when I was talking about having low stomach acid and stuff and like uncovering some of these problems down the road. But we want to make sure that we are slowly easing into things and having diversity when it comes to your food too, not just like jumping into eating a bag of cauliflower rice a day. Like that's probably not going to make you feel super good. Whereas if you slowly but surely ease yourself into eating more healthy, clean foods, like you probably will feel a little bit better doing it that way. I personally like to teach my clients like the 80-20 methods. 80% of your foods being whole, nutrient dense foods, 20% more so like living your life, having those fun foods. For me, I've slowly kind of got myself into a spot where I'm like 90 to 95%. I feel so good. I definitely recommend it to everyone, but that did not happen overnight. And with any sort of shock to the system, like your digestion and your body can be affected by that. I mean, go figure, like your body doesn't want to have these crazy drastic changes. And when we're going from eating one way to a completely different way, like of course your body's going to be like, whoa, what's going on? How do I break down this food? And a lot of things that are whole nutrient dense foods, like they do have more fiber in them. They do have more protein in them. And so that's can sometimes cause digestion upset for people, especially if they jump in right away. And especially if that's kind of paired with not having proper food hygiene, chewing your food slowly, having low stomach acid, or having maybe some gut imbalances that are deep rooted that you don't know about quite yet. So I definitely recommend easing into things and making sure we're not just kind of like going 0 to 100 right out of the gate. And of course, too, kind of the next one is just having poor motility and things not moving, getting stuck in the system. Like if you are chronically constipated, you're probably going to struggle with having some sort of bloating because you're literally just building up that backup in your system, for lack of a better term. And this can be definitely caused by gut imbalances, stress, under eating, gut issues, a lot of different things. So if we are noticing that we're not going to the bathroom 1 to 3 times per day, constipation is going to be the number one thing that we want to look at. If you are, though, going to the bathroom every single day and you're still getting bloated, kind of a different thing to look at. But if you're not going to the bathroom every single day, that's like the biggest thing that we can fix, is making sure you're going to the bathroom every single day and making sure that you are detoxing your body. Because if that food is just sitting in your digestive system and just literally sitting there, you're probably not going to feel great. That was kind of my main symptom when I started my gut health journey, was like just not going. And there's no worse feeling than like just having everything sit there, and it's disgusting. So definitely think that you should address the poor motility if that's something that you are struggling with. The next thing is one that is commonly overlooked. So it is metabolic adaptation or undereating. So a lot of people, when they are undereating, they do tend to experience a lot of bloating, and even bloating when they do start eating more. Like it takes a lot of time for your body to reach a state where it's not stressed out, because your body is conserving energy if you are undereating. Which, of course, when we've already kind of talked about conserving energy, when your body's trying to conserve energy, it's not going to funnel that energy toward your digestion. So you'll probably struggle with digestion if you are undereating. This is why a lot of people, when they are taking GLP-1s and they are dramatically undereating, their digestion is going to slow. Of course, to the medication as a whole, one of the side effects is just like affecting digestion in general. However, it is obviously exacerbated by the lack of food and the lack of eating in general. And so a lot of my clients that come to me that need a reverse diet, or maybe they have just like been a victim of diet culture in the past and have been chronically undereating, that is something that we definitely need to work on, is eating more food in order to get all of these systems functioning properly. And that was something that I was irregular when I first started my fitness journey, because I was not eating enough food. And when you're not eating enough food, your body is stressed. It does not want to have a regular digestive system. It is going to be bloated. You're going to experience a lot of these negative side effects. And so if you can get yourself and your body eating more calories, being more metabolically active, like you are going to feel so much better. And I can't even tell you the amount of clients that I've taken through a reverse diet where their digestion problems completely clear up purely from eating more food. Go figure. It's amazing, but it is so important in order to get your digestion properly functioning is to make sure you are eating enough food. And when it comes to fixing bloating, why most approaches fail to this is that a lot of times we just think of it as like a cutting out a certain food problem. Like I mentioned in the beginning, well, I went out to eat and I had pizza, like I felt bloated. I just am not going to have cheese or I'm not going to have gluten. And there's probably something a little bit deeper rooted. Like maybe you will have temporary relief, which is awesome. And you know what? For some people, gluten and dairy are something that is definitely a cause of these symptoms and different things that can come up, but it's not necessarily a fix, especially if you don't get to the bottom of it. The next thing is just overusing supplements, overusing medications. Don't just turn to Gas X or Miralax or these things that are literally just band-aids for your symptoms. That is probably the worst thing that you can do. Of course, short term, like it can help you to manage some of these symptoms and make it like not unbearable. But if we are constantly putting a band-aid over these symptoms that we've been experiencing for years, we're not actually getting to the root of like, well, why are we experiencing these symptoms? Do I have an overgrowth? Am I not eating enough food? Am I extremely stressed? And in order to actually fix yourself, you have to get to the root of what's going on rather than just throwing a medication or throwing a supplement. Also, just side note, don't fall victim to these stupid like debloat supplements. They don't work. And if they do work, it's again, just like putting a band-aid over the problem that you have in the first place. The next thing is just following random gut protocols that maybe you see on Instagram or TikTok. Like they don't work for you. They are very, very much so. I mean, obviously I'm giving general advice here, but you really need something that is specifically tailored to your body, your gut, your nervous system. Like there are so many different things at play when it comes to bloating that you can't just say, okay, this is like, if I listen to this influencer of how she doesn't stay bloated, like that's going to work for me. Like it's just like fat loss advice is not going to work for everyone. Bloating advice is not going to work for everyone. So you definitely should take them with a grain of salt. Of course, any advice, like even today's podcast, like you can take certain things that maybe hit home for you and incorporate them into your routine. But we also have to know that at the end of the day, having a curated, personalized plan based on testing, based on what your body truly needs is going to be the most helpful route to go. Okay, so let's talk about what actually helps. And I'll go over kind of the basic things of what I take my clients through when maybe they come to me with digestion issues, and we go through a few things. And then if that doesn't help, then kind of the step 2 and the phase 2 of what I take my clients through. So the first thing is we adjust and we look at your food hygiene. We already talked about food hygiene. So making sure you are in that rest and digest state, you are chewing your food, you are not like chugging a bunch of water before you're eating, like things that are going to help your digestion. The next thing is making sure you are drinking at least half of your body weight in ounces of water per day. As we know, water flushes you out. Water is great for your digestion system. And if you're not drinking enough water, you probably will struggle with things like constipation and bloating. So half of your body weight in ounces of water is extremely important. And oftentimes like that clears up a lot of people's digestion issues. The next thing is fiber. Making sure you're having at least 25 grams of fiber per day. 25 to 35 grams is what I find is like a sweet spot for most of my clients, but that is going to be a good amount of fiber. Fiber is what's going to push things through your digestive system. And if you don't have what I like to call is like an internal scrubber. So these fiber is basically like scrubbing your internal system. So if you don't have this, it's going to be really hard to go to the bathroom every single day. So having fiber that's both insoluble and soluble, so having a mixture of like fruits, vegetables, oatmeal, seeds, beans, all of that stuff will really help kind of having a diversity of fiber there. So fiber, water, and stress are going to be the 3 things that you want to address first and foremost before even thinking about testing or taking that next step. So if you're not doing those 3 things, regulating your nervous system, having enough water, having enough fiber, don't even think about like testing down the road or whatever. Also too, I would say a notable 4th one would be making sure you're eating enough food, which also kind of goes along with like fiber and stress management. So I wouldn't even say it's like a separate one, but those are the 3 or 4 basic things that you need to be doing. If your digestion is still not on point, if you're still experiencing bloating, then I would say doing something like a GI map would be really helpful for you. Some people swear by food sensitivity tests. For me, I would personally like a client to do a GI map before a food sensitivity test because again, like if you are just told to cut out certain foods, it might not fix like what's actually going on, especially if you do have an overgrowth or something that is happening. I have yet to see a client GI map come back that is clean. If I can just like tell you that right there, like you're probably gonna have something come back, especially if you are having symptoms there. So kind of bringing this all together, bloating is something that is basically a symptom to something that is more deep rooted and is going on. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It maybe just means that you need to be doing something differently and your body is telling you that something is off. And the goal is not to like remove foods forever, to not do this or whatever. It's to really regulate your nervous system, making sure you're doing the basics, and then also just like getting to the root of what's going on instead of just throwing drugs on top of it or thinking that it's normal. Like hot girls don't have to have stomach issues. Like it should not be that way. And so I hope that you found this episode helpful. I am considering doing like one-off GI maps for people too, if they don't necessarily want to like commit to one-on-one coaching, but they want to get a little bit more answers when it comes to their GI health and stuff. So if that's something you would be interested in, feel free to DM me. I've just been really into it and it's been really eye-opening and an amazing add-on for my coaching and want to help as many people as possible. But I think that's all I have for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. It was kind of a chatty one and a fun one for me. But I will chat with you all next week. Bye.